Hello, everyone, and welcome to Weekly Manga Recap here on December the 6th of 2018. I am Nick, here alongside Chris. Chris, what are your feelings on insects?
Well, my thoughts on insects go back to when I was a young boy living in El Salvador, as young boys do. And
That's a little known fact. All pre-adolescent children, males at least, live in El Salvador.
It's like a rite of passage, essentially. I don't know what the ones who are from El Salvador originally do. I think they go into space, but we did. I didn't like cockroaches, Nick. That was the thing. I've told the story I think before that my dad, who is where I got all of my shit stirring tactics from. When I was a child, used to tell me while I was eating gummy snacks, that's not a gummy snack, that's a cockroach. And I would scream and drop it and he'd eat my gummy snacks. It was the thing he did for fun and traumatized me.
You know,
like
you do with your youngest child, you know?
Yeah. Well, my dad took me into a haunted house when I was 5 that I kicked and screamed the entire time, not wanting to go. And he took me on it. And then afterwards, he's like, "You big Nancy, it wasn't that bad." I was scarred from that for my life, essentially. And he still refuses. He's like, even now, and I have a good relationship with him. He's still like, you were just being a whip. It's like, you're a monster.
I was 5.
It's a very scary haunted house. Oh, but yeah, bugs are cool. I like them. Third favorite type in Pokemon, sure.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. It's probably not correct, but it's probably top 5, maybe top 10.
I don't know if I've ever told you this, but it's when I was a kid, too young to remember. I was at like a daycare center thing. My parents had dropped me off so they could go to work, and it was like Halloween, and I stepped in a fire ant hill.
I have heard this one.
You have heard this one,
yes,
okay? So
the audience may not have.
The audience may not know this, or even if I have said this publicly, they may not recall this. So I got swarmed by fire ants, and I actually found out that way. Well, I didn't find out, but my parents found out that I was allergic to certain insect bites and stings. So I had an allergic reaction when the fire ants got me, and I had to be rushed to the hospital. And for like once a week or something like that, every week for the next several years, and then like once a month, every month, for some time beyond that, I had to go in and get inoculated so that I would not have a horrible, life-threatening allergic reaction ever again. Although I still keep, to this day, I still wear a medic alert bracelet on my wrist. I just wear it all the time, and I'm literally like unconscious to it because it's just such a constant presence on my body. So as a result of that, I despise bugs. I fucking hate insects. And if I see like that there are bugs in an area, I don't get freaked out. I go on murderous death rampages and kill everything in sight, basically. It's not a very healthy attitude to take because, like, you know, some people would just be like, let's put out some traps. And I'm like, no, I have to hunt them down and kill them. I have to crush them all individually under my thumb. And then, you know, grind up their remains in a bowl and drink it. And
you gain their power. You do taboo ancient rituals.
But the thing is, as a result of that, I have a very different attitude towards certain other creatures that other people don't, which is like, I love spiders. Because it's like, hey, there's a spider in my house. Cool. You make a web so you kill the bugs and they don't bother me. Same with, like, you know, lizards and stuff like that. Lizards I'll put outside. But anything that will kill an insect, I'll be like, yeah, cool. You are welcome in my house. And so I have a very different... combined with my childhood love of Spider-Man, I have a very different view of spiders than a lot of people do. A lot of people are like, oh, spiders, gross, scary. I'm like, no, spiders are cool and cute. So the manga that we are reading that we were talking about this week, it didn't take a whole lot for me to sympathize with this spider main character, is what I'm getting at. Probably would have gotten into it even if she wasn't drawn to be as cutesy and pink as possible. So, although it's black and white, so
I was gonna say, how do you know she's pink?
I've heard that in official artwork and stuff, she's drawn pink. There's going to be an anime of this franchise too, apparently. Yeah. The series that we read for this week is called Kumo desu ka Nanika, which basically means so I'm a spider, so what? Which I did not know until basically I was done reading through this manga that it's actually based on a light novel, which makes a lot of sense considering that the protagonist doesn't have a name. She just, because the entire series is from her point of view, so she just, says me, I, all that kind of stuff. I don't know if there's like a single actual, to the point that I read in the manga, and from what I understand, it's because it's still the early part of the story in the light novel. There's like no characters in this manga beyond just the nameless protagonist who has an unofficial title among fans. She's called like Kumoko, which means, spider girl. And yeah, this is a series about a girl who has been reincarnated as a spider in a video game-esque fantasy world. It's an isekai series, which basically means like any of those kinds of series where there's a normal protagonist who gets transported into a fantasy world and has to get by in that world. It's
so
a very popular
genre now. Okay.
Very popular genre. So Sword Art Online is probably the most famous work in it, but there's a lot of novels that do it. And of course, there's like the Hack series. We've done a couple of series that are like this with, people being trapped in a virtual world. For example, there was, I can't even remember the name of that one fantasy series that we did where it was like a girl trapped in her male avatar's body or something like that. The twist in this one, however, is that instead of just being, a hero character, the protagonist is trapped in the body of a low-level minion enemy, which there's a popular anime that's gotten really well received recently called The Time I Was Reincarnated into a Slime, which has a similar kind of starting point, although from what I understand, it takes a very different direction than this one does. This one is much more about just the mechanical work, really. It's a lot of combat and a lot of statistical analysis, which I actually really enjoyed because I'm a giant nerd, a giant math nerd very specifically. And I don't know, there's something that's kind of like a Let's Play sort of quality to it, where she's just kind of trying to work her way through this, and it's just a constant stream of she has to get through this, and she's gradually getting stronger as she does it. And there's no real plot besides that. She lands in this dungeon in this cavern, and she decides that, well, okay, I'm a spider now, but I want to live, so I've got to do what I got to do to survive, and that means killing other monsters so that I can eat them and have sustenance, and fighting so that I can get stronger and fight stronger enemies and eventually make my way out of this place. And that's it. I understand that there's a little bit more that happens after she reaches a certain point, but not in the manga that we had available, so that's it.
It's interesting you phrased it as almost like reading a Let's Play, because I think maybe that's the way to approach it, because I read through it and I kind of had the impression I worried I was going to have as I read this, where I'm like, I just like, it's very much reading a stat level up sheet, like, and I know there are games that exist that are just watching bars go up essentially, like, and there's stats to it and stuff like that, but there's not much to it. There's a lot of that in this, where it's like, I got bit by a slug, that slug gave me acid resistance, I got bit by that slug again, my acid resistance went up, I stabbed it, well, my stab skill went up, and I'm just like, this is a weird game. This feels like Skyrim or even like Oblivion, where they made it so it was very easy to just grind a skill over and over again. Like, I'm just going to go sneak against this wall, tie a rubber band to my controller, and I'm going to come back in an hour or two, and I've gained 20 levels.
From what I understand, there's a part in the series eventually where she basically does that, where she like constantly attacks herself with a tiny amount of an attack so that she can build up her offensive and defensive skills with it continuously. So, and that way she, grinds basically. And there, I do have to say, like, being upfront about this, like, there's not a lot to this series. It's a very straightforward, continuous type of story without a lot of plot elements to it. And I think that I think that beyond that, the biggest factor to if you're going to enjoy this series is basically one of the main factors of, if you will enjoy a Let's Play. First of all, do you like watching people play video games in general, or is that idea, not appeal to you in the slightest? In which case, probably skip this. Beyond that, does the premise sound interesting to you? It's a bit different than a lot of these types of series that are out there. And finally, and I think this is the most important factor, will you enjoy and become attached to Kumoko as she's going through her journey? Because if you don't, then I don't think that there's anything in this for you. For me, I found her to be pretty endearing. It's something that's kind of difficult to describe because the entire manga is just her and the way that she reacts to things. Like, there is nothing in this that is not like Kumoko doing something or reacting to something. Especially because all of the dangerous things that she encounters, like, even when she encounters human enemies, like, they don't talk. There's no dialogue in this. It's all her internal monologue, her thinking about things. So if you see her and see stuff happening to her and see her trying to make her way through stuff, and you read a little bit of it and decide, it's like, okay, yeah, I like her and I want to see her, get out of the situation and get stronger, then you will like this series in general. But if you read a little bit of it and you're like, I don't really care what happens to her, then you don't need to read the rest of it.
I was intrigued early on because they do actually give a backstory to her to a certain extent. They say that she was a girl in high school who was not particularly popular, did not seem to have much of a place. She wonders if she's even going to be like grieved by her family, and creates this sort of idea. Like later on, she finally has started to like get a grasp of the world, and she's like, this is what it's like to have a home. This is what it's like to have like a place that feels right, and all these sort of things. And I found that kind of interesting to like follow, but it really stops being like the focus in a way. Like I was kind of trying to almost imprint upon the series that this journey was just an allegory to a young girl in adolescence who's trying to struggle with her identity. But no, it's really just about a spider using the spider skills to level up and things like that. And it's fine.
And the weird type of attitude you've got to have in order to land in that situation and be proactive about it, because she spends very little time freaking out about the fact that she's a spider, honestly.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff that kind of comes in and goes. And I think as the series goes longer and longer, we get even less moments where we're trying to like hint back to a human point of her. Like there's a moment early on where she talks about like how she was so despised that she decided to live solely in spite of the world, which felt very relatable. But then you don't really like... 20 chapters later, it's her talking about like her skill point distribution.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, I mean, that is what it is. And I do agree with you that she is like amusing to follow. It's very silly and over the top. But that's kind of where my like affection for the series ends. Not in a negative way, not in a way where I'm like, this thing's awful. It's just a thing where I can't get into it after a certain extent. But this is a genre that really just has sort of an uphill battle to climb a lot of time for me.
Yeah, I mean, we've read the series that we had read before. I can't even remember the name of it, but at the very least, you could look at it and say like, okay, everyone involved in this has like a character and a personality, and there's people who are bouncing off of each other in that. Maybe it's not particularly good, but there's, at least more to sift through. With this, it's like, okay, I'm leveling up. I'm going and I'm grinding through this dungeon, and I'm encountering new enemies and stuff. And you've got to really just be into her overcoming these challenges. And in fairness to the series, it's actually very interesting at certain points, especially because it's all creature versus creature combat. The only time that she encounters like humanoid people, she runs away from them. So everything else that she's fighting is, a bug, a lizard, a freaking lava sea carp thing. And she, of course, is a spider, and she's got spider abilities. She's got thread and poison and fangs and little scythe things on her legs eventually. So there are very interesting ways of getting through this combat and making them pretty unique. And there are some really cool things that she does that had me really, really invested in just seeing her getting stronger. The different ways that she learns to use her threads, and the different ways she learns to use her poison, and eventually she uses magic and stuff. But I have to warn you that is basically all that there is to it. And I like the video game, watching someone else play a video game thing is really the easiest way that I can describe it. It's someone who is not trying to tell a story as they're making their way through a situation. It's they're trying to get stronger while working their way through obstacles. And that is a story in and of itself, but it's a very different type of story than you would expect from reading manga in general, I would say. There are definitely points where I did really feel for Komoko, especially when she gets very horribly injured. Like, her legs get ripped off a number of times and crushed and stuff. That said, there's kind of a very easy to predict rhythm to the series, to the point that I stopped at, which is if she gets devastatingly injured, she'll level up and have all of her wounds heal really quickly after that. It really does kind of sap it away, the drama, the tension out of a situation when it happens over and over again. There is eventually a point where she just has to like hide while she's got her injuries, and she can't get out of the situation. She waits for like days, hoping that she can kill something in order to get the level up needed for her to heal herself. And that's the most tense that it really gets, is that she can't just get her way out of a situation immediately like that. But it happens so often where she'll get injured. Is I leveled up, I'm fine. I think it happens something like more than half a dozen times in the 30 chapters that I read. So
yeah, it's a tough series I find to talk about, just because if you got what we're talking about by now, then you've gotten the entirety of the series. Like, it's a lot of statistics. Well, I don't want to say it's a lot of statistics. I don't want to say you're just reading like a spreadsheet, but you have to understand it's like video game fights where they're talking like, oh, my agility went up, so that's helpful for this, and ooh, my acid resistant went up. Oh, it means this creature uses acid attacks. Well, I better watch out for that. And a couple of times they do things that obviously play to the idea that this isn't entirely a video game. Like, one thing that is odd is, like, I have eye paralysis magic, but because I'm a spider, I have 8 eyes. I can do it 4 times. I'm like, well, that's broken. That's ridiculous. Todd Howard, please fix.
She does comment on the fact that some of the skills she has available to her is like, oh, this is just a broken skill.
Yeah, I forget the one like Skanda or something like that, where it's like, this is your agility spell, and it's multiplied by 10.
Or I think it was like 100 or something like that.
Yeah, that's really good.
She gets a skill called Pride, which just like you just gain everything faster now. You just get stronger way faster as a result of having this. You're just like, oh, this is super broken. I do really like some of the banter that she has in regards to her abilities, especially because the first one she ever picks up is Analysis, which is basically like having a scouter. In fact, the series makes a joke about her having a scouter. But it's really, really useless at the beginning because it just shows the name when it's at level 1. But the more she uses it, the more that it levels up. And so eventually it reaches a point where it's like it actually provides her with helpful information. And she's like, this isn't the analysis that I know and love, because it's constantly disappointing me. What is this useful shit? You know? And I do like some of the stuff that she says, like, there's a point where she basically has built herself a web fortress while she's making her way up through this cavern, going through this territory that is infested with these hornets that she's gradually killing and stockpiling so that she can eat. And she's perfectly safe because they can't get through her web fortress thing, and she can just kind of kill them at her leisure. But then she tries to go to sleep at night, and she's like, "Just shut up! Shut up! It's useless. Stop bothering me. I'm trying to sleep." So there are amusing bits in the series too. There's some good action in it, but it's going to take a very particular type of taste and for this series to appeal to you. It's a unique sort of story, so it's definitely something that's different enough that I recommend if you think that you would be into any sort of fantasy battle series, that you can try and check it out. But just be forewarned that the tone of the series and the aesthetic of it is a very particular thing. You'll have to get used to seeing a lot of just her sitting and thinking after she's leveled up, and looking at how all the walls of text have changed. But I do actually recommend checking it out, even if only just because it's a pretty different kind of story. Not story, but different type of action than you're going to see a lot of, because of the creature against creatures style of it.
Infamous Planet recommended this one, so it's a terrible series. It should not be enjoyed. He has an 0 for 2 track record on Weekly Manga Recap when it comes to series recommendations, and I guess he's just a bad person that people shouldn't like.
Yeah.
All right.
If only I could remember anything that happened in M0, so then I could pretend that it happened in this series instead.
He had a card. He held cards up, I think.
He used magic that way, right?
Yeah, I think they used magic, and it was stupid.
Right. So all of the leveling that she does is going to be useless when she gets out of the dungeon. That's what's going to happen at the end of this. Yeah. And so the entire thing will have been pointless.
My actual review of this is that Infamous Planet is bad. It shouldn't be. So let's go on to My Hero Academia.
You imagine someone is compiling a list of the ratings and recommendations we've made over the years, and they get to this one, and it's they're like, oh, well, Nick was pretty positive on it, but he had some trepidation, so I'll give it so he probably has said a B, and then Chris just said Infamous Planet is bad. And that's the rating that shows up.
Infamous Planet's kind of an annoying shithead. I don't really care for him very much. So -7 out of 10, I think.
Yeah,
that's kind of where I'm going with it.
All right, let's talk about the other manga that we usually cover, starting with My Hero Academia then. Why don't we? It's chapter number 208, Match 4 Conclusion, a.k.a. Chris got exactly what he asked for.
100%. It was exactly what I wanted, and I love it.
Was it all that you could have dreamed of, Chris?
Yeah, because it was Bakugo just shitting all over them. The one dude who we didn't even see shows up for ha, I got you. And then he just gets fucking clowned. And it's yes, this is exactly what I wanted. Fuck all of you Class 1B losers.
This is a very action-intense chapter of the series. Last time it looked as though Bakugo was going to be his usual self. Looked like he was going to abandon his teammates when they were surrounded and trapped, but instead he rushed back in after getting away, protected Jiro from getting attacked by this Kamagiri, I think his name was, guy, with an explosion, and everyone was like, what the hell? Because they didn't expect Bakugo to, be helpful. Except that we learned that his teammates actually were, because when he kind of called them all together at the beginning, turns out he actually did have at least the makings of a plan. It was a very kind of skeletal structure kind of thing, which was just, let's look out for each other, and that was about it. But it seemed to work. And Monoma is kind of really upset about this because he's watching and he's like, huh, it looks like he protected Jiro. And everyone's like, yeah, well, he's got it. Yeah, he's grown a little bit since that exam. And Manoa says, he's gotten character development. Literally, that is what he says. So he's so upset about it, though. Fuck you, Monoma. Yeah. But Bakugo just explains himself as he rushes off to try and find Class 1B's team after they've scattered, which is he's made a pledge and he's going to win and he's going to make a perfect victory every single time. So he says, we're taking this 4-0, no casualties. The strong don't settle for anything less. And the rest of the chapter is basically him proceeding to do that. The Done Quick, the constructor welding guy, tries to trap him between some pipes, and then they're like, okay. Sato sets him free by breaking all the stuff around him, and then they use Jiro's quirk to stun the guy. Bakugo finishes him off with a blast. He blows up the glue guy, basically. And immediately, the two of them are captured and taken down. And everyone's like, what the hell? This is stupid. We were planning on exploiting Bakugo's character weakness, but, he grew out of it. This isn't fair. That's essentially what they're saying.
Also, I notice here, this is sort of a weird panel layout. So there's the big panel where Lizard Girl or whatever her name is thinking, like, this team is flawless.
Yeah.
Look at Bakugo. Doesn't he look a lot like the Blade guy there? Like he's
got a very reptilian face in that one picture. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna zoom in on that real quick because that does look really weird. You're right.
What's his name? I don't know why I'm forgetting it. Slash? No.
I think it's Kamagiri.
No, the guy with the
Spinner.
nose.
Spinner.
No.
Spinner.
Stain. That's it.
Oh, that's Stain. Okay.
Yeah.
Spinner didn't have a nose either. He's a lizard guy.
Yeah, that is true. There's a lot of characters with no nose, I guess.
He does look like he has no nose in that picture. You're absolutely correct. I think it's just the angle, and that actually is his nose.
Probably.
Yeah. Anyway, Jiro points Bakugo in the correct direction. He immediately dashes over to Kamagiri guy and throws him with an explosion, which is called Explodapult. So he's down. And that basically just leaves Tokage. And while this is going on, Sero is basically explaining that that their method of dealing with her is that they have basically figured out that if either her separated parts have to decay and then she regenerates them, or they come back to her. So Bakugo handed out grenades to the rest of his team, and Sero attached a grenade to one of her parts, so it floats back to her. It doesn't actually get her, but it would have been really, really funny if that had been how she got taken out. Just like a grenade just floats right into her. But that distracts her, and Bakugo just blasts her in the face with a stun attack. And Class 1A wins. Everyone's really upset at Bakugo because they're like, why have you changed? Why have you grown up? And he's like, I haven't changed at all. I'm going to surpass All Might and become the #1 hero. It's like, fair enough. You just learned the proper way to become the best. There you go.
So
he did grow up.
He did. He has long sleeves and everything now. He's a truly changed boy.
Well, that's just because it's cold. Let's not overanalyze the costume change.
Nope. The long sleeves shows he has nothing left to hide, Nick, except the face area below his mask. That's still skin that's showing. And I guess
covering up more of himself, he's showing he has nothing to hide.
He has nothing to. You know what? I'm gonna go back into the think tank with this.
I'll figure it out. I'll find a way to attach symbolism to this.
Nick, the long sleeves to symbolize the long arms of justice that Bakugo is now seeking to straddle the line of. It's a great hero. 10 out of 10. Good insight. So in another world, in another time, this would be like a somewhat frustrating chapter because you'd be like, you spent all this time, like you spent that end of that chapter being like, Snake Girl, she's the other special recommendation. And like all these sorts of things. But fuck all that. Like, I don't care about Class 1B, and watching them all get their same big stupid introduction and all their stupid skills get revealed just for Bakugo to basically, he doesn't solo them, but he just gives no fuck and wrecks all of them. And it makes everyone else look good. I give a fuck about Sugar Man. I never give a fuck about. I don't even know if his name's Sugar Man. It might be something else. I'm just calling him that.
That's his superhero name. You're correct.
Well, there's also Sugar Man in Marvel Comics, who is very odd. But I enjoyed that we kind of got that, and it's just satisfying. I don't know. I think this is exactly what I wanted. It was super satisfying to get it. Like 100%. Bakugo just clowned every single one of them.
There's a rule in not a rule in wrestling, but it should be a rule, which is that not every match on a card should be the exact same. There should be some back and forth affairs. There should be some that are really serious and hard hitting and bloody, and there should be some that are just more like flippy dippy acrobatic displays. Some that should be technical things, and there should be some that should just be really short, one-sided affairs. Just to keep the audience on their toes, keep them interested, and believe that, oh, okay, yeah, a match can end really quickly, as opposed to definitely going a certain length of time before anything interesting will happen.
Nick, can I recommend what one of those short matches that are one-on-one and should be like over really quickly should have been? Jerry Lawler versus Michael Cole at WrestleMania. Was that one of those matches that was over? Really
that went like 20 minutes, didn't it?
It went absurdly long. And Michael Cole won.
Yeah, it was ridiculously stupid. Like, and it should not have been like that. Yeah,
I was like, wait, we're not just gonna have fucking Jerry Lawler shit all over Michael Cole, and that's the match.
Yeah, have Austin stunner Swagger in order to make sure he doesn't interfere. And yeah, nope. Guess not. We're extending the feud for some reason.
this 6-month feud, we can wring more out of the coal mine, everybody.
Michael Cole insulted Jerry Lawler's and invoked his mother who had died from cancer like the night before or something like that. And then he won. Like, what the fuck?
I wish it could say it was the worst instance of a terrible person winning WrestleMania matches they shouldn't have, but Booker T. Triple H did say
people like you don't get to be champion.
And he didn't.
He was right. Not just in that one case, but like in general. All right. So anyway, my point being, if all 5 of these matches had played out the exact same way, been the exact same length of time, had the exact same beats to them in terms of turnabouts, going back and forth and stuff, then, I mean, by this point, they would be hideously dull. And we were both getting pretty frustrated with it by the time the last one was over with. So this one was a nice breath of fresh air, a good way to shake things up. And everyone in Class 1A's team got to look good. Sato got to, help out Bakugo. Jiro used her new surround sound attack thing. And Sero got to look intelligent, which was weird. So good stuff all around. I really love this chapter.
Indeed.
So that said, we are gonna hop on over to Food Wars, Shokugeki no Soma. Speaking of changing things up, because a lot did in this chapter. We've been going through, these blue tests, and basically it seems as though the head booker just got really bored of everything that was happening. Soma and company show up at the gate, and they're like, okay, we're going to have a trial here. And then the bookmaster just says, I'm bored, so we're going to have a different trial. And for Chapter 290, the true value of the noir. And basically, the bookmaster indicates that the purpose of the blue is to, have the world's most promising young chefs determine which of them is the best. I have seen to it that the event held every year without fail, despite its exorbitant cost. But I have a more personal goal beyond that, searching for that rarest of chefs, one capable of creating gourmet that has never before existed. It seems very Toriko all of a sudden, doesn't it? Never before existed.
There's something I haven't been able to put my foot on until just now. Does it feel weird that we're at the blue and there's still a bunch of nudniks around?
Yeah.
It seems like they don't understand what fucking chef-like cooking is.
All these people, just looking around at these people who, the guys who are reacting to this, the two randos, the one with the hair part and the one with the generic anime protagonist hair. And they're like, I think that just like everyone who wears a traditional chef's costume who is at this blue is just an asshole. Like, I think that if they're not directly friends with Soma, if you're wearing one of those outfits, then what the fuck are you doing there, kind of thing.
It's a very pointless affair.
Mm. So, the reason why basically the Bookmaster brought noir chefs into the blue this year was in order to, do that, in order to find someone who could actually create new gourmet. My purpose for even nominating traditional chefs this year was solely for them to serve as foils for the noir. After this much failure, I have hope only for the noir. And so these two no names are like, what do you mean? We're going to so the Bookmaster randomly points out one of the noir chefs, specifically Nazi Chainsaw Girl, and that's
I know. I forgot the villain group had a Nazi Chainsaw Girl until you said it out. Like, I read this chapter, but until you said it out loud, I was like, all right. I forgot they're like a team of serial killers in like design aesthetics.
So the Bookmaster says, cook some goddamn beef for us. And so Nazi Chainsaw Girl's like, okay, and starts cooking up some beef, and then pulls out a chainsaw, and they're like, what? Seriously? And she cuts up the beef, and they're like, there's no way that she'll be able to exactly cut the beef properly with that. She's just going to completely ruin its delicate texture. And then, of course, it's presented as fucking perfect. And everyone's like, it's amazing! Oh, and the no-name chef eats it. Oh, juicy and wonderful. And so Tsukasa says, that chainsaw knife of hers has the slim blades along its edge were coated with a seasoning blend.
That oh so convenient way to get seasoning in the meat on a chainsaw. Like, I like to think of her at home, and she's still in the Nazi outfit or whatever, and she's just sitting there like, is this like licking her hand along the chainsaw blade? Like, is this enough oregano?
So she like gets really, really demeaning towards towards the guy who ate her food, and says, hey, could you season that cut of meat more perfectly? Answer me. And he's like, no, that method is unlike anything in the history of gourmet. No one could touch it. It's too much. I can't resist. My pride and confidence being hacked away. And he imagines himself naked, chained up with a chainsaw blade approaching him like he's in Saw or something. This is so weird. I was missing this, though, honestly. It was nice to have a bit of a, oh, right, Shokugeki no Soma's fucking stupid sometimes.
Very goofy and over the top is where it needs to be.
So the next trial basically is that people have to make a better cut of beef than hers. That's what the Bookmaster says. So this is the obstacle that Soma Company have to surpass this time. Hooray!
There you go. Everything's been tied up in a neat little bow.
Yes. So, that said, Chris, would you mind
talking about Eden Zero?
Yeah, so I mentioned before we started recording this that I had not read this. So it's going to be completely new to me. And I've got high hopes because the cover page is that one fat beekeeper girl eating and stuffing her face.
The part that I'm confused on is what she's eating in the bucket, because it's called Crag, but it has a picture that I think is supposed to be a joke about the Colonel. Like, it's supposed to be KFC.
Crag.
I don't know why you'd... Like, Crag isn't a very good pun name for KFC. And it doesn't look like fried chicken. That just looks like, I don't know, like small potatoes or something. I don't know. I don't know what she's eating, but I'm very curious about it. This is chapter 23, Million Bullets. So last time Shiki showed up and he kicked Aliga in the face. And he's like, you kidnapped my friend, so get ready to pay. And Rebecca tries to ask him, like, hey, where's Happy? Is he okay? What about the Guildmaster? And Shiki can't answer because he's too angry. And he's beating him up. And mind you, this is never treated as though it's an issue. Like, at any point that in a situation like this, that he just let his rage completely overcome him. That's not actually treated like a problem for it. Pino shows up and explains everything. And Rebecca's like, well, I guess this is good, but what do we do about that? Because Shiki's just murdering this guy. He's just beating him over the head over and over again. And Pino activates EMP, and that shuts off the ether gear. And that's sort of the end of that.
I'm very concerned by Rebecca's reaction to everything because she's like, thanks, Shiki. It's like, she doesn't go, wow, you were going to beat that guy to death with your bare hands.
No, nothing like that. So then the next page is Shiki staring at her, like an upskirt shot. I'm not sure why.
Yeah,
I think he's supposed to be paralyzed and stunned. I don't like he wasn't stunned in the position of looking up her skirt. So I don't know. Anyway, the other beekeepers got out. They all have weird Halloween costumes. One of them is Lasana, because apparently...
One of them is Mira Jane. Yeah. One of them is Mira Jane right next to her.
I see that. The Lasana one bothers me more, because apparently Hero was like, I didn't have anything to do with her in the last series, but I want to make sure...
I know what I'll do this time. I'll have her show up wearing a cat bikini. Isn't that the only thing you had to do last time? Nah. This is different. Her ears look slightly different this time, I think.
Yeah. Well, she was
and
never...
this time she's not... And this time I don't even have to bother have her give her lines.
Yeah, she doesn't have to speak ever.
Ideal Asana. That character never had any dramatic potential to begin with.
So, I can't remember her name. She pops up and is just like, did you open the door for us? And like, no, that was Pino's EMP. And she's like, well, it's good.
Yeah, they're really fast.
They booked it out, got changed, popped out, and are like, you have good friends. And then they give her some clothes. But then Shiki tosses Rebecca away because Jin shows up and he lands. And he's like, no, I'm going to stop you guys. And Rebecca, one of the girls is like, wait, are we sure we should leave him there? And Rebecca's like, don't worry. He's ridiculously good in a fight. So Rebecca and them just leave. They're tailing this story over. Now it's time for Shiki to be the big hero, Nick, and beat up Jin. Because Jin's like, those women are merchandise. I cannot let them escape. Shiki's like, they're not merchandise.
It's going to be so awkward when this guy becomes a good guy.
They're not merchandise. They're human beings. And he's like, no one interferes with Rogue out. And Shiki's like, this isn't just a punch up for me either. I'm here to protect my team. This is a battle. So in that moment where Shiki's rage was getting the better of him and he almost killed a man, Shiki immediately gets angry again. And again, everyone's like, no, this is a good thing. Shiki, channel your inner rage. Kill that man. We cut out to the church where Hagura? I can't remember her name. Sword lady. Hamura, that's it. Hamura has finished beating everybody, but one guy was getting up to shoot her in the back, and Weiss shoots her. He's just like, your Becky's worn open, it is. She's like, claims the man who helped not at all.
No, I was talking about the fact that I've been staring at your butt from behind this whole time.
Yeah, I've been staring at your bums there, his. I'm the good one. And he's like, that's it's a mighty powerful sword you got there. And she's like, it's the sword I inherited from my master. And they're like, oh, I said something from underneath us. And Weiss pulls a gun on her, and he's like, I think it's time you tell me what you're really after. And she's like, I did. I want to challenge the Demon King. He's like, no, you're odd in something. I've no reason to assume you are. Also, your character trait is that you can't hide anything because you say all of your thoughts out loud. But you're hiding a secret, I know. And Hamura explains that firearms are useless against me. He's like, but if you ever had a gun fired by an ether user. And then Moskoi flies in. He shatters through the window doing this stupid hand thing. And why did
he need to know that he had to do that?
I don't know. And then Weiss activates his million bullets, and a million bullets shoot out of the ground, and I would
he's dead now.
I would assume they kill Moskoi. I mean, they'll probably be like he was a robot, so he could never truly die. I don't know. I feel like there's a level of like morality discussion you could even add down that line. But the idea is he's like, yeah, I remodeled the ground a few minutes ago. See? This might make for a better fight than you thought there, what? And then we cut away, and Happy's awake. And Witch is like, yeah, you're alive, and I just got informed that the rescue mission was a success, and Pino's or Rebecca's coming back. Oh God, emergency! Start popping them everywhere. Brr, brr, brr. She's like, what is the meaning of this? One planet after another, dead. It's coming this way. It's the chronophage. A chronophage is on its way to Gilst. Dun, 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 dun. That's chapter.
So was there any point in any of these villains being introduced besides Jin exactly? Because 2 of them have been taken out already, no problem, and there's only 2 more besides Jin that have been established.
Well, there's still Sister, who I don't know if they'll fight.
Right.
I assume she'll just join. And then there was the other guy. Probably not. I mean, Hero's general mentality when it comes to a lot of his villain groups is that, like, especially like in these kind of early arcs, it's just like, I don't know, there's maybe one who matters and everyone else is just a fight to have at some point. So I don't know, maybe Rebecca will fight the other member of that group of Rogue Out or something. But no, not particularly, to answer your question. I mean, I guess to a certain extent, maybe I'm glad that that Aliga doesn't have a fight, and that he was just a big, gross, like, rich dude, and thus the first time someone fought him, they just crushed him. But it does seem very odd to me that they play into this idea that Shiki's rage gets the better of him. He's not even answering Rebecca, who's just trying to ask him, like, normal things, like important things, and they don't really play into that at all. It's just like, nah, he's a good guy. He's super strong. Yeah, it's just there. Chronophage is showing up. I don't know. We'll, I guess, see what happens from that.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, in my mind, I'm like, why don't they just get off of Gilst? Like, I have no reason to think anything on Gilst is worth saving. Like,
I think the only thing is that they have to.
Assholes.
The only thing I can imagine is that it's imposing a time limit on them, so they've got to get everyone on the ship and get out. So
probably.
Yeah. Let's talk about this jumpstart a bit, Chris.
Okay, I will admit I forgot to read this one. I skipped over it the first time, and then I forgot to do a reread.
Chainsaw Man is what it's called, and I'm just going to go over briefly. Basically, it takes place in this world where there are devils wandering around, and our main character is a devil hunter. He is tremendously indebted to the mafia, by $400,000, it looks like. So a lot. So he kills these devils in order to help slowly pay off his debt. But he is, in the meantime, living in complete poverty. He kills them by partnering up with a small devil, a little dog that has a chainsaw coming out of its nose. It's very strange.
Like a chainsaw nose dog? With the chainsaw nose dog?
He who wields the saw must now become the hunter. Fighting off the devils with the chainsaw nose dog. Yeah,
let's get real big fish in here. We can record it.
So, of course, this kid is being exploited by the mafia. They're barely allowing him to live. He has already sold various organs from his body. He makes a crack about having sold one of his balls, and it didn't sell very well, apparently. So that didn't really help him out a whole lot. His only hope is to keep on trucking, killing devils and stuff. But eventually he gets to a point in the manga where that's not working out so well for him. And he's also worried that he's going to die of sickness the way that his mother did. She started coughing up blood, and he has started coughing up blood recently. And he's just hoping that he can eventually make his way out of debt and have basically a normal life, one where he can, and I quote, spread jam on sliced bread and eat it. I'll flirt with a girl and stuff. We'll play video games in our room together, and I'll fall asleep with her in my arms. That's a good dream, right? Like, he's just hoping to just, like, have, like, a normal life because he's in such dire straits. And that's when he starts coughing up blood. We also get a bit of a backstory before that between him and the chainsaw dog, where they made a contract. Basically, the dog was dying, and so he decided to offer it some of his blood so that way its wounds could heal. And when the dog accepted that, he said, "Hey, this isn't for free. This is a contract. I'll save you, so you save me because I don't want to die either." And they've been, partners since then. But in the present, he gets basically lured into an ambush. The mafia calls him out to a place, and he's like, "Oh, I've got to kill a devil here?" And they're like, "Kid, we really like you because, you're obedient like a dog. You work for cheap treats like one, too. But I hate dogs." And they kill him. And it just stabs him right through the fucking back and kill the dog, too. And turns out that they've decided to make a contract with another devil, this weird zombie thing that looks horrifying. And they're going to kill him in order to have devil powers the same way that the kid does. And the kid gets caught, torn to pieces, and left in a dumpster. Hooray!
Whew, all right.
End of manga.
All right, a little heavy.
We get a flashback at this point from the perspective of the dog, whose name is Pochita. And the kid basically says to him at the end of a day of work, "Hey, if I die while I'm fighting devils, then you'll be my one regret, because you could starve to death, you could get killed by another devil hunter. But I've heard that some devils can take over dead bodies. If you're one of them, then I want to give my body to you. If you wait till after I'm in the ground, I bet even the Yakuza won't come after you. Then you could leave this town, and then I want you to live a normal life and die a normal death. Make my dreams come true for me." And we see in the present something drawing his body parts together and reassembling his body whole, including the eye that he didn't have before, as basically Pochita and the boy merge into one being. And we get this kind of mental scene that is, like an imagined conversation. Mm-hmm. And he says, "Hey, Pochita, did you take my body like I told you to?" And Pochita speaks and says, "I've always loved listening to you talk about your dreams. This is a contract. I'll give you my heart. In exchange, show me your dreams." And when he wakes up and emerges from the dumpster that he's in, Pochita is gone. All that's left of him is the drawstring of his chainsaw sticking out of his chest. So, of course, he's immediately facing down all the zombies that the devil has summoned, and he pulls on the cord and transforms into a horrible demon chainsaw monstrosity who looks like a fucking metal cover. I swear to God. This is such a gory fight scene for Shonen Jump. There are bodies being ripped apart. There's freaking entrails hanging out of this zombie guy. There's a 2-page spread of him just charging his way through a horde of zombies while cackling maniacally. So this took me off guard. Because basically almost the entire rest of the chapter is just, him dealing with the effects of killing a room full of zombies.
And does chainsaw punch that guy, which I have to admit is pretty exciting. I'm intrigued by this.
Punches him through the eye and then rips through his face with the chainsaw on the end of it. Yeah.
There's the rest of his face is a chainsaw too.
Yeah, he's got a chainsaw coming out of his head the same way that Pochita did. The chapter ends with basically the Men in Black showing up, and there's this weird girl among them who is seemingly the leader, at least of this group, and she recognizes that he is not actually a devil, not actually a human, not even a human possessed by a devil. She says that she came here to kill the zombie. She introduces herself as a public safety devil hunter and says, "You've got two choices at this point. I'll either kill you as a devil, or you get to be kept by me as a human. If you're my pet, I'll give you food." And he says, "What would I get for breakfast?" And she says, "Bread with butter and jam, coffee, salad, maybe dessert." And he's like,
"Fucked up breakfast is this?"
But he says, "That's a dream come true." So this is a very complete little story, I feel like, in this one chapter. But I am definitely intrigued to see what happens next. I thought that this was actually a very effective, very effective for a short story for a manga, though. So, I don't know. Did you have any thoughts?
Salad for breakfast.
Salad.
Ridiculous.
You can't have dessert after breakfast. What's wrong with you?
That's a whole meal.
You can't do that. Dessert will spoil you for the whole day.
It seems interesting. I'll make sure to read the next chapters as they come out. So, it's definitely an odd premise. And you introduce the cute chainsaw dog and then kill him in the first chapter. Yeah.
Perfect.
Nick's like, A+. Nick's
introduce
like
the dog
Dio.
And then kill him off. What's not to love?
Nick's like Dio. He's like, I've killed several dogs. Me, Nick. My heart headband. All right. Let's move over to We Never Learn then. Question 90. Sometimes a genius engages in X by the water. I think the X stands for sex in this chapter, Nick.
God.
It's a sexy chapter now. So the chapter actually opens with the study group kind of talking about the last arc that happened since Ogata and Takamoto were just not involved with it whatsoever, basically. So they're
brought
kind
up to
of
speed.
Yeah, they're getting the rundown of it. But the swim club, and I forgot that this is Yuega's friend who's dating one of the swim club members.
Right.
They're just like, no, this is no good. Fumino's becoming too close. And Yuega's friend's like, I'm good just as long as Naruyuki's happy. They're like, shut up, Kobayashi. So we cut over to the locker room, and the two swim club girls are kind of like cornering Iruka because they're like, hey, what are you doing? You're supposed to be working on Yueka. You've created this weird distance between you two. And the other one just finally like, how long are you gonna keep quiet about your plans to study it? Like she has a fucking panic attack or something. Like she's gone.
What is wrong with
you? She cares about this way more than anyone should. Like her eyes are dilated. And for me, Uruka's just kind of like, oh, so you guys know, then, you get it. Like, everything's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
And she's trying to explain, and one of them's just like, if I fall deeper in love, it'll just hurt that much more. And she's like, just getting to study together is now enough, right? And she's like, fuck, I know exactly what I'm going to say. So the short hair friend is like, what if Yueka suddenly finds an adorable girlfriend, and from now until graduation, you have to watch them be all lovey-dovey together? Would that be okay? And that shatters Iruka. She just falls to the ground and like, So they decide they're going to help her. So I love this. We just flash cut to the gym.
Well, hold on a second. Before we move on, I have to point out that one of them is very triumphant about this, and the other one's like, unless you want to go home without your bra, you must listen to us. And it's like, okay, what's wrong with you?
So we flash cut over to the gym, and Yuega's there, and he's like, you want me to help with timekeeping? Piece of cake! And he has this big smile on his face, and we can see he has lunch vouchers in his hand. And he's like, are you sure I can have these lunch vouchers? They're the deluxe set, too.
I feel so bad for him. They're bribing him with food.
And it's really... He's so happy. And so there's this whole moment where Iruka's in the pool and she's panicking because she sees what's about to happen. And the other two girls are like, oh, wait, we have to go. We're a little late for something. Whoosh. And immediately leave as soon as they go. And Iruka's just like, that was so brazen. That was really obvious.
Well, they don't even have an excuse. She just says, we're late for something.
And Yuega, who again is just so happy, he's like, well, I don't really understand that, but let's get to this workout. And Yuega kind of notices her, and then she bolts away. And he's like, there it is again, that subtle feeling that she's avoiding me. And he's thinking about when Fumino told him how Iruka doesn't have a crush on somebody. He's like, why am I thinking back to that? So I guess they had told Iruka about this.
Yes, this was their plan. This is what they told her to do this. This wasn't her idea.
They were like, Operation Fake Drowning and Mouth to Mouth. So she starts acting like she's panicking, like, oh no, I'm drowning, help, help, help. And then she gets to shore, and she's like, no, I can't. It's my pride as an athlete won't let me drown convincingly. I'll drown better next time. And then she turns, and Yuiga's like, oh, I'll save you.
I do love that twist on it, honestly. Like, she went through with the plan, and then she just instinctively reached the other side of the pool. She's like, drowning is so hard.
I'm too perfect with the water. So she pulls Yuiga out, and she's like, oh no, it's all because of my stupid act. I guess I better give him mouth to mouth. So we get like the close-up scenes of everything happening, and just before she...
Well, hold on. As this is happening, we get a boom, 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 as she's, feeling really tense, realizing that she's got to give him mouth to mouth. So we get a close-up of her face, and then a close-up of her hip, and then also her ass has a pulse too, because it's shooting behind her. It's just so weird for me.
It is all parts of her are very tense in this moment. And just as she's getting close, Yuiga wakes up. So I love the shot as she just flips herself all the way back as far as she can. And he's like, oh, are you stretching? Wow, you're really flexible.
That is very impressive that she can do that.
But she starts crying because she's like, I didn't mean that. You were meant to rescue me, but then I had to rescue you. I'm just really glad if anything happened to you. Cancel that. Never mind. Delete. He's like, delete what? She's like, just everything. So we cut to outside and
pulls out a neuralizer.
It'd be great. She just punched him in the head a lot. She's like, I don't
get brain damage and forget this.
I don't know how this works in the movies, but this seems like it should work. And they're outside. Yuiga and her are outside. And they're kind of just having one of those like casual conversations by a vending machine. He's like, yeah, days are getting shorter and it's getting kind of cold.
Yuiga's having the conversation.
Yeah. He's having like that one side, like, yep, days are getting shorter, getting cold out. Mm-hmm. Exams are coming soon. We better get focused again. Uh-huh. And he's just like, I wonder about that. And he thinks back to that conversation with Fumito again. So he sits down and he's like, so how's it going nowadays with your crush? And Ruka just says, I don't have a crush. Not for now, not ever. Until I achieve everything I have to do, I'm not going to fall in love. You know how swimming is my love? Basically, that's how it should be. That's how it has to be. So it was all lies. Ha ha ha. Did I fool you?
Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha
ha ha ha ha. And Yuiga's like, I don't get it. Why would she lie? I mean, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. And he turns, and we get one of those panels that's kind of placed at an angle. It definitely appears to us, the audience, that she kisses him, and she says, "So this is just practice because overseas this is an ordinary greeting." And Yuiga's like, "Overseas?" And she ends the chapter by saying, going to study abroad.
It does definitely seem as though she kissed him on the lips because he's putting a finger to his mouth afterwards.
It's very likely, but remember, this is not the first time we've had like a thing that's like, obviously they kiss, and it's like, nah, I got her forehead or some shit like that. I don't know.
She might have gotten just on the side of it, which is a much more customary greeting than is.
I was going to say, she might have just given him a Benzai, if you recall.
Well, but he also kissed people on the lips.
Well, yeah, he did do that too. Benzai was a very odd.
Benzai's got to be Benzai, I do like chapters like this where we get this, like, okay, this needs to advance. It doesn't have to go to the end right now, but something has changed. The status quo has been affected. A step forward has been taken. We didn't end this chapter the same way that we started it, because Ruka actually said, like, hey, this is what's going on with me now. And so we can deal with that now. And I do appreciate that. Ruka is still very much the character that I sympathize the most with in this series. It's really weird because despite the fact that she, showed this affection to Yuiga, this is like her continuing to try and let go. And you can tell that it's really breaking her up doing this, that the smile she gives to Yuiga is a very, very sad one. So
there's a lot of complicated feelings here. It's a very satisfying moment. And I reiterate, with no hint of irony, We Never Learn is a much better series than Nisekoi.
Okay, so...
let me look up spoilers for next week. Karasu Senpai, panty raid. It's raining underwear. Why does
Wait a minute, Mika, what is wrong with you? Why are you doing this?
For some reason, all the news reports are changed with the fucking clothing sizes of all the girls in town. That's so weird.
What? Speaking of weird fan servicey moments, Dr. Stone, Z equals 85, ultimate resource. Again, this reporter lady is just like framed so strangely, I swear. Like, I feel as though in order to follow up on the previous chapter, that her butt should have been sticking over into that other panel in the bottom shot. Senku is sending her out to get a captain, the ultimate navigator, a ship captain with godly skills so that they can actually conquer the age of exploration in one fell swoop. Hence we get Z equals 85, chapter title, Ultimate Resource. So, a small group floats out to an island, I believe. I think it's an island, whatever. And so she's going to find someone, and she happens to realize that they're heading towards an area where there's someone that she knows named Ryusu. And they're like, well, Ryusu? And she's like, no, never mind. Nothing. Senku apparently doesn't give a shit because he is studying his, oh gosh, what do you even call that thing? It's a tool, whatever, Star Trek thing.
Oh, sextant?
Yes, that's what it is. They've come
sexiest of navigational tools.
Oh yeah, measure those angles. Navigate by the stars. Yeah,
give me that sextant.
They have come to Nanami Academy, the maritime school that is included as part of its curriculum in particular. So she says, yeah, if we revive one of the teachers here, then they should know what to do. So Senku's like, all right, let's fucking dig this up. And he has specifically brought with him the gorilla team, consisting of Nikki, Taiju, Magma, and Kohaku. And Kohaku's like, why are we called that?
Everyone else is like, let's do it. She's like, I don't like this team name.
Can we workshop this maybe a little bit, possibly? But they immediately start unearthing stuff, and I do love that they immediately create this giant hole beneath them. Senku is also digging in. He's about like 2 shovelfuls in. I just love the contrast of, Senku is a giant wimp. So they uncover a lot of bodies. And Kohaku's like, so should we just revive all of these people? And Senku says, we don't have enough revival fluid because Homura destroyed the Miracle Cave. So we've got to actually be, we've got to pick and choose here. The reporter girl starts to say okay, well, let's choose one of these silver foxes. The one they'll have the most experience. They'll know their way around a sailboat in particular. And I actually know a few of these teachers because I did reporting on the academy. But in the middle of that, she looks at one of the bodies that they've unearthed, and it's Ryusui. And they're like, oh, you were talking about him earlier. He's like, shut up! No, we're not reviving him. And Senku's like, he must be good if you're acting this way. Because Senku always wants to do what nobody else does. That's just kind of his thing. She says that Nanami Academy, it was owned by Nanami Corporation, a conglomerate worth 200 trillion yen. And the Nanami clan's outrageous prodigal son was this man, Ryusui Nanami, who basically is kind of a prodigy when it comes to ships. He basically made it his life, and he built up a tremendous collection because he had a huge allowance, sailed real ships, and as early as middle school, he was captaining the ships himself. So basically, he's really capable, and Rock is really excited about it. But the reporter says, no, we should choose someone else. He'll be really skilled, but He's got an awful personality. And Nikki's like, okay, we should weigh these options. And meanwhile, Senku is just like, yeah, he's on it. I do love the way that this plays out because everyone's debating it, and he's like reaching into the back. Hey! He does like this weird girlish pose when he does it too. Like he's so he's like, yeah, he's the best one available. And Ryusui is unearthed with a snap of his own fingers, which is a weird touch. And he's like, I am back and I'm naked. And just like poses in front of them. He freaking power poses with his hands on his hips. Ah, you have saved me. Behold my naked body. I shall take over this world again. Ha 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 ha. Yes. And they give him a freaking clothes and a ship's and a captain's hat. And his butt is shiny for some reason. Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be?
Yeah. There's also a really there's a quick throwaway gag because he's obviously very flirty with the ladies with his personality. Is yes, I apologize for being nude in front of 3 beauties. And Magma's like, I only count 2 beauties, and freaking Nikki knees him in the groin. And yeah, you deserve that. Ryusui says, whatever do you mean by that? There are all types in this world, but every lady is a beauty in their own right. Okay, so he's Sanji. Gotcha. Actually, Sanji hates
I was going to say, I think Sanji also is very particular. Like, he has a very traditional view of women being attractive.
So immediately he's like, yeah, okay, I'm going to take a look at the stuff that they've made. But he has some good stuff to say about what they've made so far. But he points out, hey, my sailor's instincts tell me that we should protect the ship and take shelter because the air temperature is spiked. And Senku looks at a thermometer and he's like, oh, he's actually exactly right about what the temperature is. And he says, there's going to be a storm coming through. And sure enough, there is. And it was like, oh, this guy's the real deal. His prediction saved all the work that we did and let us get to shelter safely. Good stuff. So Senku is actually talking with him while they look at some of the wood that they've created. And he says, hey, if we were to actually run into a storm like this while we were voyaging, we would be done for because you've got weak timber here. If these were your masts, then we would never be able to get across the ocean. And so Senku says, yeah, that's why we're making a hybrid. And Chrome had no idea about this. This was apparently his way of just testing the captain to see if he actually knew his stuff, to know that this would not actually work if this was all that they were using to sail. So he brings up, okay, in order to do this, we would need some decent fuel. And that way we can get around the world. And Senku's like, oh, what fuel might that be? I don't know a thing about science, so I'm totally lost. He's not a good liar, apparently. Ryusui says, we need some oil. And so before they sail across the ship, yes, we're going to build oil refineries somehow. Which shocks the hell out again because it's like, in Japan? Seriously? But that's apparently the next step in this plan. They've got a captain. They've got to get some fuel for a proper sailing vessel.
And then they need a navigator, a doctor, a shipwright, a skeleton who plays violin.
Chef.
A swordsman.
Mm-hmm.
A historian for some reason. A helmsman. And a Bartolomeo.
Fanboy.
They need a Bartolomeo. They need all of them.
I don't really know how I feel about this Ryusui guy. He doesn't leave a very good impression on me, I guess.
The thing that I have an issue with is his design. I have a really hard time getting a distinct idea about him aside from the fact that his markings are over his fingers.
Mm-hmm.
But the long hair with the bangs makes it really hard to not mix up his scenes with Senku.
Or he's also very skinny magma kind of.
Yeah.
So, and he's, I don't know, maybe he'll get better with time, but he better wear that ship's uniform the entire time because otherwise, it's going to be a bit.
I think what we need to do is we need to have you take down your camera again.
Okay.
All right.
Is this doing any better?
Yeah, for the moment.
Not being able to see it.
Yeah, you could do whatever dirty things you want again.
All right. Let me take my pants off then. All right.
There you go. Get nice and free.
Now the show's really started now.
Now, yeah, we're past that 9 o'clock time, so we could say swear words and we can have broad panties matches or whatever WWE used to like have.
This is now a post-watershed production, as the UK people say it.
Exactly.
All right. Let's move on then to... I forget.
Is it Seven Deadly Sins?
Seven Deadly Sins? I think that's it.
I can't remember anymore. Yes. Seven Deadly Sins, Chapter 292, The Stuff of Nightmares, The Return of Hope. So, in this chapter, we start with Merlin kind of taunting Chandler about being like, well, I hope you don't die too quickly, because the only way I'm going to feel better after losing Arthur is to put you through the exact same amount of pain and humiliation and thoroughly decimating your mind so that you can never recover. And then she starts getting a headache, and she's like, fuck. Because this is when everybody starts having their memories brought back to the fact that Mael and Esteros are the same person. And Chandler uses that moment to kind of escape this control. So everyone starts having their mind changed. There is a small moment where Hendrickson heals Gilthunder. And Gilthunder kind of like confronts him afterwards, like, why are you healing me instead of attending to your own wounds? Escanor picks up his axe, and because of that, he can get his body back. The sun charge is whole again. But all of the villains are back up and recovered. And suddenly, there's a moment where Merlin kind of explains what we all know. Like, the spell was used, it's been undone, so now we all kind of know what that means. Chandler kind of comments like, oh, okay. I always thought something was off about Esterosa, and feels like something that, has been caught in my throat has finally gotten taken out, And there's a moment where Merlin's like, so Zeldris, you just learned that your brother was not actually your brother. It was actually an enemy person, and all these memories are fabricated. And he's like,
what are you going to do now?
He's like, so... why are you asking why I'm shocked? That's a silly question. I never once loved Esteros as my brother. He was a douche. I hated him. I always hated him. Now, let's start round 2. Sorry, yes, it was Cusack. Sorry, not Chandler. So Cusack says, no, let us handle them. And they start talking about how they're like, well, yeah, the 7 deadly sins are still out there. You should conserve yourself for that fight. And they start telling the story, like they combine their weapons like over top each other and tell the story about the original demon, the first demon, who was given power to act as the demon lord's right hand. But this first demon became so conceited with power that he tried to challenge the demon lord for a seat and betrayed him. And he was defeated and given the grave punishment that his body and soul were split into 2 and tasked with the enormous mission to raise the 2 princes to be the next candidates for the demon lordship. And they would work as those 2 princes' respective tutors. And that is what Cusack and Chandler are. They are 2 halves of the original first demon, and they have now become one once more. So when they combine, the big kind of energy darkness orb that had been covering them shatters, and we see the entire battlefield has been kind of exposed to the light above, like to the area around him. And Merlin has a shocked expression that says, is that their true form? And we see a very terrifying visage. It is like a centaur horse person with
challenge rating 17 monster.
Yeah, it's a big boy. And he says, I am the sinner, the first demon. And I'm trying to think what we'd call them. It's a combination of Chandler and Cusack. Chandlesack, perfect. So Chandlesack is like, I am powerful. And Merlin says, now all chance of victory is lost. And we cut over then to where the rest of the 7 deadly sins are, and they're like, oh, something's coming from the direction of Camelot, isn't it? And King's like, yeah, I can sense Merlin and Escanar's magic. And so it's like, we have to hurry. But then Hawk's like, I don't know what's happening. There's a bunch of light. And he shoots out, and Bond's there. And they're all very happy because they're like, Bond really did come back. And King's like, looks like my sister really knew what she was doing when she chose you, Bon. And Bon thinks, I'm back. Elaine, Captain.
King, why does your hair look so stupid?
Yeah, he's like, you look like an idiot.
I thought I looked cool.
He's like, I was super dope now. I was the coolest looking dude.
Yep.
So that's chapter. The great demon and a ray of hope that maybe Bond be back and help turn things in a different kind of favor.
Yep, stuff's moving. Cool. I do really like the design of Chandlesack. But
I like the name of Chandlesack more than anything.
I was thinking about that while we were going through the chapters. Like, how do I remind their names properly? So I went through a few possibilities, but that one was like, that's a good one. So
that's the perfect one.
So
yeah, no, I also am glad to see that there's more to them than just like getting beat by Merlin. Like I do like the idea that Merlin's super powerful, but these guys were built up pretty big, so it's cool that they have this kind of like second form fight at this point.
And when that happens, she's like, well, we're fucked.
Well, shit. I don't have 20 minutes to lay out tiny lightning attacks to see if they're weak to it or not.
So, yeah, that is going to do it for 70 cents. Let's move on to Promised Neverland. Last time we had a whole thing with this like super strike force team led by the new William Minerva. This time we're going to pick up again with Emma's group. They get food in chapter 114, one at a time.
Holy shit. I read this chapter and I remember none of it. Like I looked through it and I was like, oh my God, they really did just get food and that was the chapter.
It's a bunch of characters, you know, thinking about how bad their situation is because they're moving a lot more slowly because they've got to look after all the kids. It's not just a small group that was accompanying Ray and Emma as it was before. But they've got to be extra cautious so as not to lose people. They've got to gather food. But they're not having a whole lot of luck because, you know, the size of the party that they have. So some of the smaller kids are like, oh no, we actually know how to do all this stuff, by the way. Look, there's monkeys. We'll follow them. They'll lead us to food that is good for humans to eat. We've been learning a lot about this stuff. So yeah, we can actually you know, help look after the group. So you guys can rest too. And then, you know, more time goes by. Emma and Ray have a conversation about what they're going through. Emma admits that she's really worried, and she says, "You were worried too, weren't you, Ray?" And Ray's like, "Shut up! No, I wasn't." They hear a commotion nearby, so Dawn and Ray rush off with Emma, and oh my gosh, there are some demons, and they're attacking humans. A group of humans? Oh, that's the end of the chapter.
I don't know.
I have almost nothing to say about this. So
yeah, I really wish I had more to say about the Promised Neverland, but these last 2 arcs or so, well, I guess not arcs, but small snippets of a story or small narratives just haven't done anything to really hook me.
Yeah, ever since oh gosh, what's his name?
You know what, Nick? I'm gonna say it. A time skip ruined the Promised Neverland 2. God damn it.
Time skips are awful.
No time skip has ever worked. Ever. Prove me wrong. Internet, don't really. I don't want to hear about time skips.
Well, One Piece's time skip was fine.
Was it? Was it?
Everyone was complaining about those arcs when they were going on. And so
yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
Wait a minute. What about the time skip in Dr. Stone? The very first one where we jumped to several thousand years.
Oh, the chapter 1 time skip? Yeah, I guess that one didn't get...
Touche!
You know what? You got me.
All right.
Let's talk about Black Clover then. Page 184, Dream World. So, Nick, several characters are trapped in the glamour world, which is also called Dream World.
This chapter after the first time I read it, and I vividly remember everything I wanted to talk about.
I guess this is, I don't know if it's supposed to be called Glamour World or Dream World. Anyway, Dorothy refers to it as Glamour World. The chapter's called Dream World. Oh, confusing. Aesthetics matter. So Dorothy is like, you're here in Glamour World, where the impossible is possible.
What maybe you should do it like she's like a celebrity who's gotten her own reality show. So she's like, "You're in Glamour World, where the impossible is possible."
She's Tyra Banks, then.
Exactly.
And she's just like, "I see you giving it, but you're not giving it." You see,
I should not have invited you to this conversation because I forgot that you've watched a lot of America's Next Top Models.
Cycles. She's like, "I see you smiling, but you're not smiling with your eyes. You need to use your smize more."
That, by the way, sidetrack. That means nothing. Okay, I'm gonna break the illusion here. She did not invent that. She just trademarked it.
Nick, are you saying Tyra Banks, the Grand Administrator of Model World, didn't invent smizing?
Literally, smizing is just lowering your head a little. Models were using that well before Nick, Tyra Banks came along.
It's about smiling with your eyes. It's very complicated.
And how did she accomplish that? Look, this is me looking. This is me smizing. But she didn't invent that. Hold on. She did not invent that.
Let's put the camera back on for this so we can see.
Oh, right. I have to do that. Okay. All right. It's back on.
Not yet.
Give it a minute.
There you go. Okay.
All right.
Give me a smile.
Okay. Now I'm going to smize. And that's what she does.
That's smoldering, Nick. You gave me a smolder.
She lowers her head. Fucking brilliant. Well, I'm going to make billions of dollars with this idea now.
Well, we're going to have talk with this about Miss J and Twiggy and Nigel Barker. We're going to see, Nick, if you really have it in you to be America's Next Top Model.
Oh, no. I'm going to get hit with, like, giving away the secrets of a copyrighted, trademarked technique by Tyra Banks now that I've lowered my head a couple of degrees.
You're like Magician X, Nick. You'll never work in the magic industry.
Oh, no. I'm going to wear a mask while I do it now. Hang on. Let me show you how to do it while I wear a mask. Okay, this is me. This is me smizing.
All right. So
anyway, Glamour World. We're in Glamour World.
They're in Glamour World, where any impossible is possible. And she shows this by having the bed turned to spaghetti or ropes or something. I'm not really sure. It turns into something that's like tangling them up and like lifting them up. But then like a big piranha plant monster shows up and almost eats them, but I guess doesn't, because they're like, oh, and they pop out of something, the bed spaghetti, and Dorothy's like, the result was changed. It must be that cat and its thread magic. And there's a small moment where Sally's just like, wow, this cat is incredible, and Vanessa's like, so you're not a black bull? So stay close to us so, like, you'll just be in the radius of being saved, because otherwise you're fucked.
I do appreciate that little detail where she says, like, yeah, I'm only protecting, like, my companions. I don't really like you.
Well, it's also specifically how the cat works, too. The cat can only protect allies, so. But yeah, Sally's really interested. She's like, this is so crazy. This world is so amazing. It can any spell one mage could possibly create. And there's a whole thing, Charmy, where she starts feeding them. And Dorothy's like, wow, an inexhaustible magic supply and absolute evasion. This isn't going to be easy. So then Luck and Magma start throwing magic attacks at her. And she summons 2 teddy bears with opposing elements to block the attacks. And they're like, wow, she can use magic of any attribute, which is becoming less and less of an interesting thing because, like, 7 people can do it in this arc. And, you know, Vesta's, like, trying to get people under control. She's like, hey, no time for joking around. Well, you know, I'm the foundation of this defense, and Charmy's in charge of magic recovery, so we have to get out of here quickly. Because if we don't, like, eventually all we can do is evade, and that won't get us anything out of here. And there's a moment where Vanessa keeps eating, and she's like, if I get fat from this, I'm slapping you both. And then I think they make like a water thing, and a bunch of like dagger fish are coming at them, and they survive that too.
Water that wells up continuously. There are blade fish inside it that are perpetually spawning from the water. Basically, Dorothy is doing this thing that is just a continuous self-perpetuating attack in order to exhaust Vanessa's seemingly never-ending stamina.
Yeah. And even their food kind of gets taken away. So like, it's really crazy. So Luck hits it with his Thunderbolt Destruction. He's like, oh, I guess that didn't work. And then Sally's like, no, now you hit it. So Magma hits it with his fire. He's like, boom, and it explodes. And Sally's like, aha, as I guessed, that's real water. So I basically just used some chemical reactions there to explode it. So that proves it's real water. But even if that's the case, it's going to be really hard to take her down. So Sally gives like this whole explanation about like how this place works. She's like, first, she's generating are actual objects she visualizes, and their composition is the same too. So that means real world principles work on them. Second of all, because of that, she can't manipulate the resulting phenomena and the spells that we cast. So their spells are unaffected by it. And even with that, she's really tough. So Vanessa's like, well, we gotta beat her quick. And Dorothy's like, you don't have that time. And Charmy's falling asleep. Because apparently, when you're in a glamour world, you grow sleepier and sleepier, and then once you fall asleep.
I mean, have you seen like what models put themselves through, Chris? It's an exhausting lifestyle, especially if you're at the top of that game and you're in such a stressful situation where your entire career, your life hinges upon those few weeks where you're taping it. It's a tiring schedule to have to keep up.
It is exhausting. It's relentless. Nick, have you ever been there for a makeover week where one girl gets her hair cut really short and she doesn't know how to deal with that? She always has had long hair and now she just doesn't think she looks pretty anymore, but she has to find the confidence to nail that photo shoot this week or she's going home. Tyra only did it because she believes in her. It wasn't an executive producer who said this girl is going to be very emotional if we cut her hair. Let's do that because it's good for ratings. Tyra saw that she was most beautiful with her hair short.
Isn't Tyra an executive producer on that show?
Probably. Tyra might have been. The manipulative monster is just like, let's cut all of that.
There's like multiple Tyra Bankses who have like conspiracy conversations in the background. One of them is producer Tyra. One of them is model Tyra. One of them is businesswoman Tyra. One of them is failed singer Tyra. One of
them's basketball Tyra. I'm like, I don't even know this one. She's like, I
didn't know you tried to do that.
I'm a quintuple threat. I do all sorts of things.
There just had to be 5 in this group to round it out. Come on.
Yeah. So they're in a really bad situation because they're like, oh no, we're all going to get slowly sleepy and lose. Like, how are we going to beat her? And Sally's like, I had a fuzzy idea, but now my head's even fuzzier. Oh, that's it. What are these? And poof, glasses appear and she puts them on. And she's like, I thought this might work. If I think of them, they manifest. So what this world needs is an exit. An exit, exit, exit. Make that. And suddenly a whole bunch of exits pop up and appear. And she says, see, once you've thought of something, as a rule, it's pretty hard to intentionally get it out of your head. So that's the secret. When you're in Glamour World, you apparently can also just as easily manipulate the world.
Not what happens, actually. I'm going to defend this a little bit.
Okay.
What she does is she gets Dorothy to imagine the things. So that's why she's shouting up at her is like, hey, what are these? Like, they're glasses that are on my face. Like, the glasses? Yeah, glasses. And so she thinks about glasses and then thus makes them appear. And then she's like, hey, an exit. It would be great if we had an exit. You want to make an exit? You should make an exit. Are you trying not to think about an exit? You're thinking about an exit. And that causes exits to appear because Dorothy is thinking about them because she is the master of the world and she imagines things and thus they appear. That said, this is also a thing that has like been done with someone who just has imagination powered abilities. At the very least, going through this chapter, I did think to myself, like, well, it could be worse. I mean, she could be grummy. Like it's the attacks are at least slightly more dreamlike and have a weird aesthetic to them. Like the stuffed animals appearing to block stuff. A weird ocean full of fish and things like that. And it's also not as though like she has it's established that she doesn't seem to have as strong control over the abilities as Grummy did, where it was just like, whatever I want to happen just happens. So that said, it's not doing anything new or creative in my mind. Once someone is introduced with this ability, then you really kind of gotta go the extra mile to make their use of the ability interesting. And it's just like, okay, this is happening. Sure.
It's there. I don't know. I'm sure if I'm somebody who's more into Black Clover, this might be a more interesting thing. It's a section of characters who I'm not super invested into. So
yeah.
I'm kind of more interested in seeing like this teamwork with Sally, who I guess is probably the most agreeable one to work with because she's just insane.
Mm-hmm.
But it is hard to also forget that she did torture children. But
right.
I mean, it worked for Caesar Clown, I guess. It's not like there's not a history of this in shonen manga.
True. Okay, so we're going to move on from there to it's just One Piece, isn't it? Just One Piece, because we don't have World Trigger. There was apparently a chapter of World Trigger that came out in Jump Square, but that has not made it into the English digital version. So we're just going to conclude with One Piece, and it's going to be that way for the majority of weeks going forward when we don't have a chapter of World Trigger. It's Chapter 926, Excavation Labor Camp. This is very much one of those catch you up to speed chapters for stuff that's going on. In fact, we begin the chapter with like news, basically. Like someone is like advertising a newspaper extra saying that there has been another ghost sighting. Reports of a Hitokiri striking on the 8th block of District 2. The culprit is infamous Hitokiri Kamazo, the man with the scythe. We all know it's him, but they can never catch him. And also there is another attack by Ushimitsu Kozo, the boy who strikes at the 3rd hour of the bull. He steals from the rich and gives to the poor in their row houses. So, yeah, a lot of stuff's happening. Meanwhile, these various samurai have passed to them by Usopp, seemingly, little scraps of paper that have a symbol on them. And all sorts of people around the country are receiving them, and some people of importance are taking notice of it, that the Kozuki clan has returned. How many of these people do you think are actually going to be important, Chris?
I don't think any of these guys are going to be enormously significant. It's worth noting that I believe members of Kid's crew or not Kid, Law's crew are also helping out with it.
Yes.
So it's a whole kind of joint effort. There is still 2 other members of that samurai group they need to reunite. So we very well could see one of these guys end up being that, but it seems kind of anticlimactic with everything they're doing with Ashura Doji to just be like, and they found fucking Schmetty inside a group shot. He was the guy without the beard. I'm like, there's 2 without a beard. They're like, he's one of them.
Then. It doesn't matter.
His power is farts.
So different people have different reactions. There's a young guy who says, like, well, I'm going. There's an older guy who says, if I were younger, I'd want to fight. But, hey, what are you going to do for weapons? Meanwhile, nearby, Usopp is advertising some swords. What do you know? We were just saying we needed some swords. And he says, step right up and see my wares. We then cut over to what Nami is up to. She is with Shinobu, the older Kunoichi, and they are spying on some guy.
Yeah.
I think we've seen this bearded guy before, but I can't remember. But they're going over a business transaction, and they're trying to spy on them from a small hole in the ceiling, but they are spotted and found out and have to immediately make their escape. Shinobu is apparently really, really, really easily freaked out in a dangerous situation because she's just like shouting continuously to the point that Nami tries to hold her mouth shut sideways, which, yeah. But they get away by using this kite ability of Shinobu's and get away to safety. Meanwhile, Sanji is doing his part in recruiting members by making a bunch of soba. And he's recruiting a bunch of girls. He's basically trying to impress girls. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Nami is like, you're not recruiting samurai, what the hell? So,
one guy in the shadows is like, does that guy have any idea whose turf he's muscling it on? So maybe that character will be a significant one.
I am curious to see if Sanju's got to participate in a Shokugeki as a result of muscling in on the food mafia's territory.
That'd be solid.
And then we cut to the excavation labor camp in Udon. And there is this older guy who, it's basically like that scene at the start of The Force Awakens where Rey only gets like half a portion after all the work that she's done. That happens to this guy. And then when he objects to getting so little food, it's like, in your old age, you can't get enough work in order to get the food you need, huh? It looks like you're gonna die. And just smacks him to the ground. It's like, I am evil. Okay, good to know. And then we cut coming rampaging in are Kid and Luffy, who have these gigantic stone blocks on their back. And they have carried so much that the crew that they're delivering to can't hold that much. And they're like, how many stones did you guys make? You've made over like 500 of these. Weren't you guys wearing the Sea Prism stone cuffs? And yeah, they were. Yeah, they're just super overpowered. Yeah,
it's just we're really good.
Yeah, and so Kid and Luffy end up with these gigantic portions, just these balls of food piled up in huge bowls. And it turns out that they did this much because they were competing with each other. Because of course they did. They're a couple of competitive idiots. Yeah. Everyone, of course, who is looking on at them is like, how the hell are they that strong? Gee, one of them says, how are we supposed to break their spirits like this? Say something to them. Hey, slow down and chew your food.
Come on now.
To deal with this situation, the vice warden of the facility, Dobon, who is a hippo smile fruit user, shows up, and his hippo fruit.
This took me like 5 minutes to process what was happening. I thought a guy with a hippo fruit showed up and then got eaten by a hippo.
So there's the hippo, and okay, let me see if I can get this. So he is sitting / standing in the hippo's mouth, and the hippo's lower jaw is also his calves, and the upper jaw is above him.
Yes.
And the hippo's entire head is behind him, leading to its front legs, which are then, that's where the hippo's body cuts off with a tail, and he's wearing pants on the hippo's lower body.
Yes.
But the important thing is that his body is in the hippo's mouth.
He is inside the hippo. His lower torso is the lower jaw of the hippo. And I guess naturally the hippo always has its mouth open so that he can interact with people. But when it does it, it just swallows him essentially.
And it goes hip.
You know what? I have to appreciate that we first saw Hold'em before we got Dobon. So we got this idea of like, why is your tummy a lion? And then Oda was like, just you wait. When you see this dude, I don't even like, part of me is like, I don't want this dude to do anything. Like,
ruin the perfection of it.
I'm just like, because I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, does this guy have a fight with somebody at some point down the line? Does he have like a big action scene? And I'm like, I'm curious to see it. But at the same time, it's like, I feel like this one moment encapsulated and just made independent of itself is so perfect as well.
It's better just left in your imagination than anything.
Yeah.
So he's, going on this whole rant. He's like, who dares defy the vice warden? And they establish like, yeah, sometimes the hippo just closes his mouth and it happens at random. And he's trying to say something like, we can't hear him because he's in the hippo's mouth. And they object, like, Master Tobon, sorry, but they earned every last bit of food that we paid out, so what are we gonna do? And they point out, it's like, yeah, these are the guys who did it. And it's Luffy and Kid, they ate all the food, so they're all fat and swollen up now. And so he starts scolding them. He's like, I don't have enough to eat my giant portion now. Fuck you guys. And they're actually ashamed. Actually, I can't tell if they're supposed to be ashamed or if they're just gradually digesting the way that Luffy does when he just like, oh, right, I've eaten a lot and now it's time to revert to my normal size.
I think they're just digesting.
Yeah. And the douchebag who would beat up the old guy before is like, hey, if you guys decide to do this and defy a jailer, then we're going to cut off your arms for the first infraction and your legs for the second. And when he says this, is that Caribou?
That is Caribou. That is Caribou, who, if you guys don't remember, he was the criminal who was trying to kidnap mermaids to sell them, and he had the mud devil fruit. We don't see his brother anywhere around, which I don't remember what happened to him or not. But yeah, an interesting sort of thing to be like, hey, he's here now too.
Yeah, and also the guy who was in the cell in the darkness that spat out the fish bones is watching everything silently as well. Yeah. So. And so Devon reiterates with the commander's warning of like, hey, you've got no right to fight back right now. And Kid says, well, we're weaklings with our power drained from the Sea Prism Stone. But look, we did honest work. So we earned that food. And Devon just like, you're guilty of eating my food, and now you must learn. And he just swallows them in his hippo mouth. And one of the guards says, fools! The inside of the hippo's mouth is Master Devon's chamber of slaughter. And then steam comes out of the hippo's nostrils as there's wham, wham, wham sound effects, and he falls over.
There's another very important sound effect as the fight happens, and one sound effect is just, hippo!
Falls over, and Kid and Luffy come out normal size, and Luffy picks up the old man that got beaten up. And they're like, oh, you're going to get the death penalty now! And Kid just looks at him and goes, where's your proof? I guess because they beat the guy up inside the mouth where no one could see.
Yeah, they're like, we did nothing. We just got swallowed up by that big old hippo and then got out.
Yeah, he beat himself up. What's wrong with you? So all the other prisoners cheer Kid and Luffy as the shining stars of the prison yard. So, despite being prisoners, seems like they're doing okay for themselves in this situation, Chris. Yeah, so honestly, not an incredible chapter, but just Devon showing up in his weird fucking design were entertaining enough. So
yeah, I dig it. It's a fun chapter. Is some interesting stuff happening. I did not expect to see Caribou back.
Yeah,
and part of me is a little worried because in my mind, I'm starting to see this as Impel Down again, which I love. I loved Impel Down, and it was great to see, like, oh, Luffy has to team up with, like, Mr. One and Crocodile and all these sorts of things. And that's why I'm like, oh, he has to team up with Kid and maybe with Caribou and maybe this guy in the mystery cell or whatever. But, I mean, I don't care at this point. It's still goofy and fun. I like that it feels like the other characters are all doing things, like we see Sanji and Usopp and Nami are all out there in their own ways actively trying to help. It does make it feel like every Straw Hat has their role to play in this rebellion.
Yeah.
It's nice.
It was a follow-up on the scene at the beginning of this arc where we saw what the Straw Hats who had been undercover in Wano were up to. And now, yeah, the other Straw Hats are contributing to that. Except we don't know exactly what Brook is doing. So
we don't know what Brook, and Zoro's still out there doing stuff.
Well, Zoro's not doing anything by design at this point. As far as we know, he has yet to reunite with the Straw Hats since he got separated from them. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. And with that all done, let's wrap up Weekly Manga Recap for this week, naming our favorites. Chris.
Favorite chapter, I'm going to get to My Hero Academia. I mean, I couldn't ask for a chapter and it delivers 100% on what I asked for.
Exactly what you asked for, yeah.
And then not give a chapter of the week, so.
100% agreed. I really love this chapter. Fast-paced action. My girl Jiro got to do something. What's not to love? So. Mm-hmm. Also, something about Bakugo's character growth and whatever.
Who gives a fuck?
By the way, I should mention, I have commented on this in a tweet recently, but the poll results for the latest character popularity poll for My Hero Academia also came out this week. Bakugo won in a fucking landslide among English readers by a narrow margin. There were over 100,000 votes. Bakugo had nearly 50,000 of the votes. it was a lot closer in the Japanese poll from the results that we have. Like he won that one by just over 1,000 votes. This one, the American one, he won by nearly 30,000. So there you go. So yeah, but as I said on Twitter, Jiro won the Nick poll, so that's the only one that counts. So good luck next time, guys.
Jiro poll, Nick wins every time on that.
Yes. I didn't even know there was a poll running, honestly. So,
who's our MVP?
My MVP, I've gone back and forth on this. I'm not sure if I want to do it for Debon or.
I'm giving it to Debon. I mean, it's
in that case. I'm going to give it to Iruka. Okay. I really liked a lot that we got from her. Iruka for the heartfelt reasons. Debon for the just being an instantly memorable weird design, and that's about it. But Debon's just a joke character.
Almost assured I'm not going to remember him in the future either. Like he's going to be gone in a minute, but in this moment right now, he's perfect.
But occasionally we'll just look back and remember, hey, remember there was that one character in the Wano arc who was just a guy who was inside a hippo's mouth and would close on him.
Remember that hippo guy? Well,
yeah.
No, like he was a guy with like a hippo eating him. That was his like character design. Like, oh yeah.
What was his name? I don't fucking know.
Fucking hippo dude. Man, who cares? Why does he need a fucking more complicated name than that?
All right. Do you have a recommendation picked out for us, or?
Sure. Let's get to the.
We can just name that later. We can just name that later, but whatever. Thank you everyone for joining us for Weekly Manga Recap. We record the show smashcast.tv/RoloT and twitch.tv/RoloT currently on Thursdays at about 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, though that may change in the future. I've got to talk to you about that, actually, Chris. Check us out on that, and if you want to check out our past episodes, you can follow us on WMR Podcast on Twitter @RoloT and take enough time to figure out when we're going to actually be recording the show. WeeklyMangaRecap.podbean.com has all of our past episodes. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes. Check us out on YouTube. Comment, rate, help out with the algorithm so that we can become kings of the hobby section and defeat the woodworkers.
Yeah, those fucks.
Yeah. Be sure to send us feedback. Ask us questions for future Q&A episodes via email to weeklymangarecap@yahoo.com. And if you want to suggest future manga for us to read, you can do that via email as well. But you can also check out our Discord server. There is an entire chat room set up specifically just for people to make recommendations for us to have on future episodes. We also want to extend a special thanks to our Patreon supporters. You guys allow us to create all sorts of fun bonus content for you guys to enjoy. Special thanks as well to Steve Mann, our talk artist. You can check out his work in a number of different places, although not Tumblr anymore. And Infamous Planet as well for helping us out in a bunch of different ways.
Nick. Do you think he has any female presenting nipples on his website at all?
What, Steve Mann? No!
The guy whose Tumblr was idrawboobs.tumblr.com.
No. Never. Anyway.
I do have a recommendation then.
Oh.
So our next series we're going to be taking a look at, this one was recommended us by Gelly Elfson. It's going to be called 87 Clockers. It is a seinen slice of life series about a violin major. And slice of life, romance, drama. Let's just try something different. Let's end the year on a different
change of pace from the fantasy battle stuff we've been doing of late. Yes.
Yeah. Let's shoot for something a little different. So that's what we're going to be looking at.
Okay. Awesome. That is going to do it for Weekly Manga Recap. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.
Goodbye. Poof. I don't know what that means.
Smoke bomb.
Smoke bomb. Now we're just a log with a bunch of shuriken on it. Yeah.
Now we're gone. Now.
Yeah.